Absolutely fantastic. You know, I think it's been a feature of this group throughout the time that I've been here, when we've had the odd situation that has left us a bit deflated and disappointed, that they've come back in that following week or into the next game, you know, with a renewed vigour, with a sort of steely glint in their eye to get back on track and to to make the very most of the games that we have left. So it's been a very good week. You know, at the end of 3 games in a short period of time again last week, I think we can safely say that they'll be in the right place mentally and physically come the weekend.
Thank you, Coach. We'll start with those on the ground. Brian, go ahead.
You get 5 wins on the road so far this season. Why have you guys been so successful away from the stadium?
I actually think a number of reasons. The first one won't come as much of a surprise. With 8 games in the early stages of the season away, I think the guys got themselves in a particular mindset. It was almost a case of, you know, we've got a really, really tough start to the season. It's going to take a determined attitude here to stay in a challenging position after 8 games. Secondly, I think we all felt that there were going to have to be occasions, rather than maybe the year before, where you know, we ended up with an awful lot of draws away from home, an awful lot of draws in general, you know, and there was a tremendously competitive edge to the group. But I think the development and the positive steps that this group have taken and how they've grown has meant that, you know, we've been able to attack games in a maybe a more aggressive manner. Particular games, not every game, and I think that's given us a better platform, a better mindset, and of course a better return come, you know, the 2022 season as we're into so far.
Thank you, Coach. We'll kick it off to Team Sullivan.
Gary, when you have a result that maybe the goalkeeper feels responsible for, how do you keep Elliot up, and then do you feel like he's handled it well, and do you think that there's still a competition between him and Joe for the starting job? Is it Joe's job, or is it Elliot's job? Do you have kind of an idea of how that's going to play out?
Well, I think maybe the way to start answering that is, you know, Joe has set an exceptional standard in the last 2 years, and he himself has made a couple of errors as well. And I think those standards are so very, very high. Like teams, they go through, you know, maybe dips in form. And it's only the strong teams and the strong characters that come out the other end of that and are still competitive. Elliot has come into our group, and if we look at the body of work that's been achieved, Open Cup performance in Louisville, victory in one of the toughest arenas in the country, a team that had been on a 23-24 game unbeaten streak at home, performed exceptionally well. Orlando Open Cup, really, really tough encounter. His form in that game was, I thought, at a very, very high level. But what we have seen is just a couple of little blips. And I spoke to him this morning, just as we work towards the weekend. And as we know, with all young players trying to earn their stripes and to gain experience, there are going to be some moments that you can look back on and say, I should have done better there. If you're a goalkeeper, chances are it's going to result in a goal. There haven't been many, fortunately, but what I can safely say is that if you don't make any mistakes, the chances are that, you know, you're never ever going to learn to dig deep, show true character and personality. And these situations will only serve him well. I'm sure of that.
Trey Hills.
Hey Gary, just want to talk to you about Annabelle and Alex, two guys that weren't there over the weekend. In terms of the status of Annabelle, is that the same thigh issue that we saw in May, or is that something lingering? Is that something different? And in terms of Alex, you mentioned that he was an unexpected omission over the weekend. Are you able to give any detail on why it was unexpected? Thanks.
So as far as Annabelle goes, it's a slightly different injury. I believe it's the other thigh. Very minor injury. Enough, obviously, to keep him out for a short period. I think if you're going to get even a minor muscle strain, to make sure and to be fully appreciative of where the player's at and his health, it normally takes 2 or 3 weeks. So Annabelle's not far away from being in the group again. My expectation is that he will be training on Monday, working towards next weekend, hopefully. Alex is purely health and safety protocols.
Tim Sullivan with the next question.
I would, I don't know how to phrase it necessarily delicately enough, but you guys obviously had your home unbeaten streak snapped. And I would say even before that and since obviously the kind of air of invincibility for you guys playing at home has diminished. How do you guys get that back? Is there anything that you can do to say, okay, this is our home park, this is this is the big deal for us?
Yeah, I mean, the easy and straightforward answer, without me being delicate, is win. And quite honestly, Tim, I thought we did a fabulous job of being a long way towards that at the weekend against a team that have rounded into form. There shouldn't be anyone that wouldn't expect that Portland are going to be fighting for the playoffs or even the top 4 spots. They have a very, very talented group of players. And yes, they started the year off in an uncharacteristically slow fashion. But they have rounded into form and they're looking in a good place. And I suspect, looking at their group and watching them throughout the early part of the year, they had a lot of injuries and a lot of omissions. And now a lot of those guys are back. So we're seeing a very challenging group. We were in a very, very good place at the weekend, 2-0 up, going into the final 25 minutes. And the fact that we were unable to hang on to that is the most disappointing, obviously, part of the weekend. You've got to work through those situations. It's happened a couple of times. To your point, I think there will be teams that come here in the near future and say, you know what, let's stick with this, let's stick at it, and, there may be an opportunity here. Well, the only way that we're going to be able to dispel that is by winning games and improving our management of those moments as we move forward. We've got more home games than any other team in the Western Conference coming up. We're in a very strong position, a very competitive position to be competing for the postseason. And it is, part and parcel of our work towards the latter stages of the season. It's our our development line, if you like, towards the end of the season, and some of the boxes we've got to tick to get back to maybe that invincibility you're talking about.
We're going to go to Brian here in the press conference room.
Have you had a chance to look at Charlotte?
Yeah, a number of times.
Okay. They've won 4 out of the last 5, or had a draw in 4 out of the last 5. What are they doing well?
Well, I just had a brief discussion before I came in here, and we played Charlotte in the pre-season. And this is not the Charlotte team that we ran into and beat in pre-season. They have improved in pretty much all areas of their game since we saw them down in Florida. I honestly think that the confidence of picking up results at home has played a huge part in building the personality and the character of the group that you now see. And they look like a team that work very, very well for each other. They're more a sum of all of the parts than just maybe 2 or 3 individuals. They're very much in most games, and that makes them a really similar group to ourselves. In fact, you know, some of the characteristics of where they're at, of their home form, of how they play and the way that they play does remind me an awful lot of how, you know, we were evolving in our first year. Tough game, tough environment. Looks like they get good support there. They'll be full of confidence. But then so will we. We've had some good away results, and there's no reason to believe that we can't get another one in this game.
Right here.
Obviously between Joe and Elliott getting games in and getting opportunities, you mentioned how playing with a back 5, playing with back 4, obviously we've seen you guys play in the conventional 3-4-3 shape. How do you think, if at all, that changes both the cohesion but also maybe exploit the strengths of both Joe and Elliott? Do you think that alters the way that they are in cohesion with the back line, so to speak?
Yeah, look, there will be 1 or 2 little areas that you could maybe look at in terms of choices coming out of the back and decisions of where and how to play in and around that back 5 if we're playing it, or a back 4, of course. But the simplistic area of being a goalkeeper doesn't change. The 18-yard box stays the same size. The goal will have a bit of netting on the back of it, and the height of the posts and the width of them will still stay the same. And I've always said to the goalkeepers in our group, keep it out the back of the net. When you can play, I want you to try and keep it in our team. And if you have any doubt whatsoever in where or how to play, then let's just be, you know, more pragmatic and sensible about that and work it into good areas. So, to your point, Drake, there will be some small fundamentals in the shape of the group. But because the goalkeeping role is so unique, you know, in the fact that their job is to stop the other team scoring for the most part, and to make good choices in a limited area of the field. And that limited area doesn't change. So I think we have, you know, just to close the book on this, I think we still have 2 very good goalkeepers who at this moment in time have made 1 or 2 mistakes. And if I look around the league, just about every goalkeeper in the league has made mistakes. I'll look every week, as you do as well, I'm sure, and goalkeepers are making mistakes. So at the moment, the only difference with our goalkeepers is that they weren't making mistakes. Certainly Joe wasn't. He was one of very, very few that wasn't making any in the last 2 years. Okay, maybe that's been highlighted a little bit more because he's made 1 or 2, but I'm certainly not going to get out of my pram about it.
We have time for one more question, Ben, right?
With the transfer window opening today, I'm not asking to like divulge any plans or anything like that, but what's your expectation for how you guys are going to approach that, and kind of just your overall assessment of where the squad stands right now?
I think like all teams, Ben, we're always looking to try and improve the group in whatever area, way, shape or form. I think we've been able to dip into the market for the most part from the very outset of this group and make some really nice choices. And you now currently see a team that are very, very competitive, and I'm really pleased about that. And I'm talking about a squad and a group. If there's the opportunity there to add an individual to strengthen 1 or 2 areas of the field, I'd love to. But I think those deals have got to be the right ones, and they've certainly got to be players that we would perceive to be improving the group. And I think therein lies the challenge. It's not easy to do that when you're performing at a good level. You know, there's normally the ability to strengthen the squad and add players and numbers. But when you're looking to actually add players that are going to raise the bar and take us in a more positive direction, that's not quite as easy. And it often takes a little bit longer than you want it to, if indeed it does happen. So, you know, me and Mike are in constant dialogue about what we might be able to do, what we might be able to address. And make no mistake, Ben, you'll be the first to know if we're able to do that.
Yeah, I think it's been great to be back together. We had a day off for July 4th, but I think we all just wanted to be back to work. So, you know, I think the week's been great so far. Had another good session today, and just really looking forward to getting back on the field and chasing points on Saturday.
Thank you, Sean. We'll go to those on the floor. Brian.
Was it a matter of flushing it, or do you still want to kind of let the tie simmer?
Yeah, I think on Tuesday we had a really good film session, recapping the game, talking things out. I think that's a really important aspect of growing. So I think that was healthy for the group. And now we're turning the page, and we're looking forward to Charlotte and a very good team, very good expansion side that's done well in their first year. We know that it's a tough place to play. So we've been strong on the road, but this is another opportunity to pick up points against a very strong side.
We'll kick it off to those on the Zoom. Ben Wright.
Yeah, Sean, you guys obviously played on the road a ton to start the year, and now coming back to Jonas, you obviously have only lost once, but maybe not got as many wins as you would have liked. Do you feel like that puts any added pressure on you kind of in the back half of the season on these road trips to pick up maximum points?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think here at Nashville, the standards are very high, you know, and even though we did have a tough road stretch to start the season and we're in the playoff picture, you know, I think we can all be honest with ourselves and say that we want to be even higher up the table. And so in order to do so, we can't only win a lot on the road. Of course, we have to win at home. And so I think it's been frustrating to give up points. I think we're all honest with that. We all know that as players, we can be better in closing out games. So I think this is just part of our development as a team. We have everything we need in the locker room. We have a great side, experienced side, and now it's just about putting together complete performances. And I think we're close, but I think we're also honest that as players, we can do better.
Tim Sullivan.
You've been around long enough that you've played expansion clubs before. Is there a different challenge, whether it's limited film or whatever, to playing a first-year club, and then at this point in the year, have we seen enough of Charlotte that that's no longer necessarily as big of an issue you have, 16 or 17 games of film on them or whatever?
Yeah, I think, for us as a group, we have a lot of respect for Charlotte. I think especially because this club is an expansion side. Nashville, we're in our third year now. And so we know what it's like to be an expansion team, and we respect what they've built. And so, looking back on their season so far, we can see that they've improved week by week. And so we know that they're gaining momentum, gaining strength. They're coming off of strong results. So, especially in this second half push, we know that every single game is important. Every single game is a chance to climb the table, to push for a home playoff game. And so that's our mentality right now. Regardless of who we play, honestly, we know that we have to bring our best, and playing against a team like Charlotte's no different.
Drake Hills with the final portion of the day.
Sean, it sounds like you're pretty much in cohesion with what Gary said. This is not the Charlotte team that you guys basically scrimmaged down in preseason. But I wanted to talk about how you guys have taken on Eastern Conference teams this year, unbeaten, and then have won two of those that were on the road. Why do you think that is? And just being on the field and going against those guys recently, DC.
Yeah.
That's about?
Yeah, thinking about that right now, I think that a lot of us have a lot of experience against East Coast teams. Obviously, this is a different scenario, but perhaps that's played a part in it, being familiar with the different stadium, game day routine, hotel, whatever it could be. Perhaps that's played a role in it. but that ties into the experience of the group, and we've had a lot of guys play in the Eastern Conference before. This will be a new challenge for us, without a doubt, playing in Charlotte, something that we've seen a lot of games on TV at that stadium, and it's been a good place for them. So this is going to be a really tough matchup, but a great opportunity for us to bounce back from that draw against Portland. And, you know, that DC game away was really inspiring for us, so we're hoping that to build on that road momentum, and, you know, that'll put us in a nice place heading into Wednesday's game against Seattle. But, yeah, we're not looking too far forward. It's all about Saturday, picking up 3 points.